and they put her in, and she somehow, a woman, somehow she's doing better than he did.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine it can last. They even said,
yeah.
But all of them, and they didn't correct her once, and they corrected me everything I said practically. And I think 9 times or 11 times. And the audience was absolutely, they went crazy.
There is no audience here tonight in this hall at the National Constitution Center. This is an intimate setting for 2 candidates who have never met.
Let's talk about Trump's cognitive decline because, frankly, nobody else is. I mean, could you imagine for a moment the number of headlines, the number of talking heads on cable news focusing on the fact that he thought there was an audience when there wasn't, and the push, the call to have him step down. But lots of silence, barely mentioned. The fact is that there's a lot less of a standard for Trump. There's a lower standard for his cognitive ability. There's a lower standard for his qualification. And there's certainly a lower standard for his ability to tell the truth. Let's break it down. You would think a former president and somebody who is running to become president for the 3rd time would have a greater focus on his cognitive ability. If Trump wins, he will be the oldest president ever to hold office. And he is showing us over and over he's not capable of the job. I mean, could you imagine him in meetings with foreign leaders, never mind members of Congress, and making the kind of cognitive failures in his communication that he's been doing on the stage?
We're energy independent. We were soon going to be energy dominant, and we would have been now having so much money coming out of the energy. We just have the best. We have Bagram in Alaska. They say it might be as big, might be bigger than all of Saudi Arabia. I got it approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. I got it done. In their first week, they terminated it.
Let's talk about the fact that he confused a military base in Afghanistan with an Alaska wildlife refuge. Now, he did that in a town hall. If he was going to do that with a foreign leader, how embarrassing is that going to be for our country?
Just tell that he's lost a step. He's getting mushier, fuzzier, more confused. You look at this press conference, he declared that he was in a helicopter that went down with Willie Brown on board. He's never even been in a helicopter with Willie Brown. And it does raise some real concerns about what's happened to Donald Trump over the years, right? Is this a symptom of something? Is he struggling to maintain a grip on reality or to tell the difference between dreams and what is real? Or best case scenario, he's just lying again?
How many people are really going to take him as any value in leader when he can't even remember the name of the own Alaska wildlife refuge? But if that were his only mistake, maybe it would be passed by, but it's certainly not his only mistake. He mentions an audience that doesn't exist. He confuses Nikki Haley with a former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. He shows us again and again that he is not capable to do this job. Really, probably one of the most difficult jobs in the world. And at his age, his decline is really apparent.
I now want to show you and play a video of what is absolutely not photographic.
In the failing New York Times by an anonymous, really an ominous, gutless coward.
We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will repeat.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation.
And I watch our police and our firemen down on 7-Eleven, down at the World Trade Center.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won. This is the very definition of totalitarianism.
And let me begin by wishing you a beautiful, look, you remember this? Do you remember?
God bless the United States. The windmills are driving them crazy. They're driving the whales, I think, a little batty.
Jesse Waters from Fox made the stunningly sexist statement when he said the generals would have their way with Vice President Harris in the Situation Room. Well, I think he should be more concerned about Trump because his cognitive decline shows that he's not going to be able to handle that Situation Room very well. I mean, could you imagine him having a serious and meaningful conversation with the generals? Could he really have a grasp of the facts and have enough of a memory to be able to have conversations conversation to conversation for really important conflicts in our world. Well, I certainly don't have the confidence of that. And you shouldn't have the confidence of that if he can't even remember that the debate had no audience.
There are multiple things that I think are the reason he should not be president. That's the whole reason I'm running. I do think that he is in decline, and I think that he needs to know to step away. I do think that he surrounds himself in chaos, and we can't be a country in disarray and have a world on fire and be in chaos. I do think that these court cases are distracting, not just to the American people, but to him himself, which is keeping him from talking about what really matters. That's exactly why I don't think he should be president.
This is what the American people are asked to vote. Who is more qualified? Who can do the job? And the mainstream media is doing a really bad job of calling out the fact that the oldest man to ever hold that office, if he wins, is showing us that he does not have the cognitive ability to hold that job.
He's too old. He's out of touch, losing his marbles at an alarming rate.
They have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on, no water comes out. You want to wash your hands, right?
Yeah.
And you've seen this, and you turn on the sink, and it's very little.
I do want to remind everybody, this is the guy that worked with the former Klansman.
I will be Donald Trump's most loyal advocate to make sure his nominees go to the Supreme Court.
Full of his struggles and ramblings and rantings and mumbling and bumbling and stumbling. You decide. Take a look.
They've deliberately surrendered our border to vicious coyotes and drug smugglers. I mean, these drug the smuggler.
I find it awkward. I find it embarrassing. He's really in the early stages of some kind of senile dementia.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings.
It's more than awkward and embarrassing. It's actually dangerous. Having someone with his mental state, to me, is terrifying.
She speaks in rhyme.
In rhyme?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here and then the bus will go there because that's what buses do. It's weird.
He can't finish a sentence.
Anonymous, really anonymous.
The man doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know where the exit is. He's not sure how to get through a speech.
Mr. President, you need to sign it.
Old, outdated, retired, elderly, aging, senile, dementia, slow, confused, idiot, ignorant, sleepy, gaff, bumbling, bad, terrible, disappointing, joke, profanity.
Being corrupt is bad. Being corrupt and senile is even worse.
And the other thing that they're really not calling out is that because of his advanced age, if he were to get seriously ill or not be able to do the job and pass away because of his age, because of him being the oldest person to hold that job, the person who would become president is Vance. And Vance has only held the position of a senator in Ohio for 19 months. Only for 19 months. He has not sponsored or co-sponsored any bill that has become law. He is certainly unqualified to become president. Not only unqualified, but we know how much of a Project 2025 philosopher he is. He wrote that intro to the book, and he talks over and over and over about the fact that people without children don't have a stake in the country.
We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. If you look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
You go on Twitter and almost always the people who are most deranged and most psychotic are people who don't have kids at home.
So many of the leaders of the left, and I hate to be so personal about this, but they're people without kids trying to brainwash the minds of our children. Randy Weingarten, who's the head of the most powerful teaching union in the country, she doesn't have a single child. If she wants to brainwash and destroy the minds of children, she should have some of her own and leave ours the hell alone.
This is the person who would become president if something were to happen to this really elderly man who the Republican Party is asking to vote into office. Certainly, if you're going to have a really elderly man run for the most powerful, most important, most serious job in the world, You should have, as a VP, somebody qualified to be able to run the country on day one. But Vance has zero foreign relation experience. Zero. He has very little domestic experience. He only got into politics when he ran for his position as senator in Ohio for only 19 months. This man is not qualified to do the job. But have you heard the media asking that very important question? Whether or not the oldest person running for this job picks somebody qualified to do that job on day one? I haven't heard that question asked far enough, and that's why we're asking it here at Midas Touch.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the Midas Touch newsletter at MidasTouch.com/newsletter.